So we got there, but it wasn't easy. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Enduring Daddy. I'm Adam, and this is where we do all things endurance sport through the lens of a new dad. And today is race recap day. We're going to be going through the beginning, the middle and the end in terms of pre, during and post race thoughts for the Dorney Lake Olympic Triathlon I completed on the 19th of September. I know it's a bit overdue in terms of getting this video out to you. I've spent a bit of time focusing on family and off the back of that sort of training block, really committing my time to my priority at the moment. But finally getting around to getting the video sorted for you all, and as you can see, slight change to the studio and slight increase in quality of kit I'm using with the GoPro Hero 10, of which I did an unboxing video previously, and I'll link that in the card at the end of this video. So let's get into it. From a race standpoint, in the run up to the race, I did lag off a little bit in terms of my training. My commitments shifted from training to really focusing on Theo, and he was going through a bit of a sleep regression stage, and to be completely honest, still is going through a sleep regression stage, and not really sure what he's regressing from. But as we sort of progress to that 3.5-4 month stage, he's really starting to work out what's going on in terms of night and day, and trying to learn how to get himself to sleep. So there's a lot of up in the night with him at the moment, and therefore that to a certain extent has impacted my training, certainly post the race and to an extent pre-race as well. In terms of the kit I used for the race, I was wearing a 2XU compression full zip tri-suit. I was wearing my triathlon heart rate monitor from Garmin, as well as my Phoenix 6. From the swim, I was swimming in my Aeron DHB wetsuit that I've had for a couple of years now, and I was wearing my Zogs Predator polarized goggles, which actually were great in terms of not steaming up and not fogging up in the water. I did use an anti-fog spray in them beforehand, which worked beautifully. And then from a bike standpoint, obviously riding my Cube Attain SL disc with my Casque Mojito X helmet. I did wear my DHB gloves on the bike, probably not the smartest move in terms of a fluid transition, but I took the time to put both gloves and socks on for the bike. And then I was wearing my Physic R5 Tempo shoes, and I was wearing my Zone 3 race belt as well. From a run standpoint, I was wearing my Clifton 7 Hokas with my insoles, and then obviously the Zone 3 race belt as well, and left the glasses on. Glasses wise, was wearing my flight jacket knockoffs, link in the description below, from Amazon. Awesome glasses at a fraction of the price of the equivalent Oakleys. Brilliant for cycling because you don't have that bridge across the top in terms of that plastic, which is always in that exact line of sight when you're in that sort of drop or more aero position. So that's kit. I will link product links to all of the kit that I used. Caveat that with some of those are affiliate links, specifically the Amazon ones at the moment. So anything that is purchased through those links does lead to a small commission being paid to the channel, and obviously supports the growth of the channel and videos like this going forward. From a getting ready for the race standpoint, night before, laid all of my kit out, got it packed up in bags. So I took a moon bag for all of the kit in transition. Those of you that don't know, moon bag is essentially a circular bag that can lay flat. It has drawstrings on either side, and you can literally fill it with all of your wet gear after a swim. I used to use it when I went surfing at uni. And you fill it with wet gear, strip off your wetsuit into it, and then literally pull the string, and it keeps everything nice and secure, and it's waterproof at the bottom when you chuck it in the car. So my logic was, I'll take that into transition, I'll lay everything out on it, and then as I get from the swim, off the bike, this and the other, I can chuck all my kit into it in terms of my wetsuit, my swim cap, what have you, and then that makes things nice and easy after the race. I took a towel, bright coloured towel, to put next to that bag as well when I laid it all out the night before. And so put my run shoes, my bike shoes, my helmet, the towel, all of my nutrition for on the bike and for the run into that bag, pulled that up. I then chucked everything else into a holdall, including a dry robe, which actually I didn't end up using. I used the showers at Dorney Lake. The facility's amazing if you haven't raced at Dorney Lake, and the event was incredibly well put on by Human Race, so thanks to the guys for putting on such an amazing event. So laid all my kit out the night before, all my nutrition, and then segregated the kit out for bike, run, swim, as well as all of the generic triathlon kit that I needed for the day in terms of tri-suit, heart rate monitor, watch, what have you. And then obviously bagged that up and made sure that was all ready. We took 2 cars. Theo and his mum were in one car and I was in another car, which meant I could lay the bike out flat on the back of the car with the seats down, which was a lot less fussing around when we got there. Took a track pump for the bike as well to ensure that I could inflate the tyres quick and easy off the other end of the journey to the triathlon. Then settled in for the night after having a fairly hearty pasta-filled meal. The morning of the race, got up relatively early, look after Theo. Theo's mum was kind enough to let me sleep all night and did the night shift, which I was massively appreciative of. Got up, peanut butter on bagel, cinnamon and raisin bagels, absolute favourite. And that was all I ate, actually, and a couple of cups of black coffee. Jumped in the car, went and picked up Theo's granddad, who came to support the race as well, and then headed over to the race for about 9 o'clock. Now, I needed to be there at about 9:25 to ensure that I had time to get my bike racked and everything laid out in transition well before my start time at 10:45. Got there, checked in, picked up my licence, wristband, which I hadn't received in the post, and then got myself another coffee, sat down and chilled out for an hour, which was lovely, really soaking in the atmosphere because this was the first live event I've been to, and started watching others that actually by the time we arrived at 9 o'clock were already on the run. So the first wave went out pretty early on that Sunday. So from a nutrition standpoint, obviously laid everything out the night before. I took 3 water bottles for the bike. I actually only carried 2 on the bike and left 1 in transition. 1 water bottle had 3 gels in it, topped up with water, and then some cherry flavouring drops from myprotein.com. Another bottle had just an electrolyte tab in it, and then another bottle had some maltodextrin, carbohydrate powder, and some more cherry flavouring drops in it. I also took 3 gels to wear on my race belt on the run. I also took 2 caffeine shots with me, one for about 20 minutes before I got in the water, and then another for between the bike and the run as a bit of a kick me along. And they worked pretty well. I'm a bit of a caffeine fiend at the best of times, so possibly doesn't have the effect that it would if I was abstaining from caffeine, but nonetheless. And about 20 minutes before I was due to start, we got called over for our briefing. We stood in a crowd. I think there was about 20 or 30 people in my age group, and they asked everybody, "Is this your first triathlon?" And I sort of looked around me and sheepishly put my hand up. Suddenly I saw a number of people putting their hands up as well, which was quite reassuring. We were told that we were lunatics for choosing an Olympic distance as our first triathlon, which in hindsight, doing a sprint distance triathlon first probably would have been a massive help, but nonetheless committed. Also during that initial briefing, they talked us through the laps that we'd have to take under each discipline. So for the swim, it was a 750 metre lap, so we had to do that twice. For the bike, it was an 8-lap loop around the road, going around Dorney Lake. And then for the run, it was 4 out and back runs down the right side of the lake as you're looking at it from the boathouse. And that was something that I hadn't really considered before the event. It was something that I hadn't thought about having to keep track, and actually proved to be a little bit more difficult than I thought in terms of suddenly doubting myself that I'd done enough on the bike to get to the end of what was expected of me, and the fear of getting to the finish line and then turning around and saying, you missed a lap on the bike, or you missed an out and back on the run. Sounds super easy. I found it quite difficult to keep track on the bike. Getting sort of 5 or 6 laps. Have I done 5? Have I done 6? And actually ended up tracking laps on my watch, which makes sense. And just hitting that lap button every time I got back to the starting point. Entered the water. They were letting us go in sort of 4 or 5 second intervals. Entered the water and struggled. I'm not going to lie. For the first probably half of the first loop, I really struggled to get into the groove. Ended up stopping, doing a fair amount of breaststroke, and was watching people fly past me. Literally fly past me. It was absolutely amazing quite how quickly some people managed to get through the swim. To be completely honest, it was amazing how some people managed to get through the entire race with the time that they did. But nonetheless, I plodded on, got round to the other side of the first lap, and saw Theo and his mum and his granddad waving away, which was a real boost, as was it every single time I saw them on the side. Theo and his mum had kindly created me a nice little cheering me on banner, which was amazing, and then progressed around the latter 3/4 of the swim. Once we got into the second lap of the swim, really started finding my groove and managed to just plod through it, to be completely honest. And I stuck with a couple of other guys in my group who seemed to be at about the same pace, and then got out of the water and wow, I was exhausted by that point, not to mention the fact that I still had 42 kilometres on the bike and a 10k run to do, and actually just walking up the ramp from the lake was a real slog. And then I plodded over to transition and took my time, to be completely honest. Got my wetsuit off slowly, faffed about on the floor trying to put my socks on after drying my feet with my towel, put my helmet on, obviously remembering not to touch my bike before I put my helmet on, my gloves, made sure my nutrition was in the right place, my glasses, my race belt which had my gels in it already for the run, and then started running in my cycling shoes, which again is easier said than done across probably 50 metres of concrete, sliding around on my cleats, and then sort of very, very unelegantly mounted my bike. The bike was a real sort of race of two halves in terms of each lap, because going down the right side of the lake there was such a strong headwind and it was a battle the whole way down with really exposed track the entire way down the right side of the lake. The left side of the lake, where you probably benefit, the back component of that lap should benefit from that what was headwind in terms of a tailwind pushing you back towards the start line, but unfortunately it's quite enclosed and therefore you get none of the benefits. So you get all of the negatives of that headwind and none of the benefits. So it was really a case of just plodding through the out and then just gliding back, because obviously you don't have that brutal wind in your face. And as I said before, every lap I was lapping on my watch to ensure that I could recall how many laps I'd done. There was a marshal on the entrance to the bike off, and she was shouting at me, how many laps left, how many laps left, every lap, which was really, really encouraging. And again, kudos to the entire team at Human Race and Dorney Lake, because they were amazing. Everybody was really welcoming, really upbeat, really motivating, and it was a real boost every time I went past that lady. And so towards the end of the race, I knew that I wasn't going to get close to that 3-hour mark, so had pretty much clocked out in terms of putting my all in, and I just wanted to get across the line as quickly as I possibly could. So really reined it back in terms of the pace that I was running at, and got to that final lap, put all in I could. My legs were just absolutely shot, and finally managed to get across the line and saw Theo and his mum and his granddad there cheering, and grabbed a alcohol-free electrolyte drink, one of those beer sort of replica drinks, a couple of Science in Sport hydration tablet tubes, and my my medal, my finisher's medal, which was a really proud moment. Actually, it's the first proper athletic event that I've entered, and part one of this channel, I suppose you could say, in terms of the experiment as a new dad, whether or not you can progress to become an endurance athlete in any form. And really, really chuffed to bits to have this first of a few, I hope. But there were a lot of lessons learned from this event. So let's have a quick look at the stats for each of the disciplines, and then we'll go through some of the lessons learned from the event itself. So from an individual discipline standpoint, time-wise, I completed the swim in 42 minutes and 2 seconds. T1, transition 1, was 4 minutes and 9 seconds. The 42.4 kilometre bike was 1 hour, 29 minutes and 9 seconds. T2 was 2 minutes and 28 seconds. And then the 10 kilometre run was completed in 1 hour, 3 minutes and 44 seconds. So overall, the race took 3 hours, 21 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, I had set myself a goal to try and do it in under 3 hours, which was probably unrealistic for someone who had never competed in any type of event like this before in their life. But nonetheless, I think I probably did a little more than I needed to. If I look at my Garmin data, my swim suggests that actually I didn't cover the 1,500 metres that I was supposed to. I actually covered 1,992 metres. So whether or not my watch tracked incorrectly or I was doing a fair amount of zigzagging, I don't know. From a bike standpoint, it says I did 42.97 kilometres, and from a run standpoint, 10k. So the stats suggest that perhaps I wasn't being as streamlined and as straight as I should have been, but nonetheless, I'm pretty happy with 3 hours and 21 minutes. It's my first event like this, and it's a baseline on which I can improve going forward. Next time. So what would I do differently next time? And this is hopefully is going to be an actual lessons learned that I can use going into the next event I enter. But next time there would be a number of things that I would change. I would probably be more realistic about how much time I have to train. Maybe rein back the number of days that I was committing myself to train, and just focus on lesser days and more consistency, more varied training as well. I did a lot of running and a lot of swimming and not nearly enough on the bike. And obviously the bike is the biggest component. I didn't manage to hold the speed that I would have liked during the race, being such a flat course. I try and swim before the swim if possible. What I found during both training sessions and in the race itself is it takes me a while to find my groove when it comes to swimming, freestyle, and subsequently I just need to get in the water and get out and do 10-15 minutes worth of swimming to really find that groove and be able to just plough through the distance that I need to. I'd possibly move away from my BOA cycling shoes to some Velcro triathlon shoes. My shoes aren't the most comfortable shoes in the world. I could probably do with some insoles in them, not too dissimilar to what I have in my running shoes as well, because the outsides of my feet really do start to hurt after a period of time on the bike. But also, they're incredibly stiff. They're not easy to move around in outside of being on the bike. And I think some triathlon shoes would be a lot more durable during a race like that, which is obviously what they're designed for. So I think if I do another race or a longer course race early next year, I might well invest in some, and also start slower on the run. I went out at probably 5k pace when I should have gone out at probably 10k on a good day, or possibly even sort of half marathon pace, on the basis that I was doing a triathlon and this was only a component part of that, and also put my gels in my triathlon suit rather than on my race belt, because that really started flapping around and became just another frustration during the event. And then overall, to try and get that time right back down, I'd try and faff around less in transition. I did spend a lot of time faffing around, wasn't nearly as slick or as seamless, probably don't need gloves on the bike, possibly don't need socks on the bike if I've got more comfortable cycling shoes or triathlon shoes. So all of these are factors that going into whatever race I possibly enter in the future, I will test out in training and try and put into practice to better my time going forward. And from an Olympic distance triathlon standpoint, try and break that 3-hour barrier and obviously stand me in the best stead for any longer course races that I possibly enter in the future. So I've got loads of other plans and events coming up in the short term, as well as some challenges that I've set myself, which obviously I'll be documenting and videoing on my new camera setup. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in following my journey towards becoming a more accomplished endurance athlete, whilst obviously Theo progresses at the same time, and the challenges that come with balancing the two, as well as the exciting adventures that we get to go on together, then please do hit that subscribe button. It really helps grow the channel. If you're interested in seeing where the journey began, I'll stick the introduction video up here. If you're interested in hearing more about the camera that I'm talking to you on now, I'll hit my GoPro Hero 10 unboxing video down here. And until next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.